something that you've not mentioned publicly yet that would surprise most people, or is there fucking anything?
Something that I haven't mentioned.
Let's get Andy on a fucking exclusive.
One thing that I haven't talked about, and probably because it's recent, would be I personally am struggling with where I consider the SEAL teams to be going and how a lot of guys are representing themselves in the public perception of the community that both you and I come from. I
have a theory about that. We might as well get right into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it started recently. Like I said, I've had, and maybe it stems from me putting my own expectations on individuals. The problem certainly could be from me having or expecting too much from people. But I expect a lot from the people who come from our community.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that I expect more from myself. I don't hold anybody to a standard that I wouldn't hold myself to. And as of recently, I've had some what I would consider to be poor experiences with people from our shared background, and it's put a bad taste in my mouth. And I've actually found myself really wanting to distance myself from the SEAL community as of late.
So what I'm curious, to further into that, what I'm curious of is do you find, or have you found, a specificity towards a certain generation of guys that you're referring to? Because to me, and I hate to sound like the bitter old guy, it's like back in my day, but to me, like the community seems different nowadays. The guys that I've run into that are more recent, I would say over the last couple of years that are either active or recently active, and I would consider kind of the generation after ours seem different to me. Now maybe it's just because I'm old now and I've been out for a fucking decade. And that's not to relinquish any fucking shitbaggery or a shitbird affiliation with guys from our generation or even older, because there's certainly plenty of them. But to me, there seems to be a shift. Do you find that, or is it more all-encompassing?
Well, the experiences that I was referencing were actually from people more of our generation, but I think the teams are different. I don't see how they couldn't be, because the world is different. And when I was a BUDS instructor, I remember having conversations with other BUDS instructors because we were putting through the younger generations coming through. And there certainly was what I perceived at least to be a difference in mentality and attitude from when I went through training. Yeah. But the question that I had for the other instructors was, I wonder if the instructors who put us through had these same conversations about it.
I'm sure they did.
And so I think it's natural. Yeah. I think as the world shifts and advances in technology and society, I don't think there's any way that the teams can stay what they were in the past. And I think that's actually good. I don't necessarily think that the routes that the evolution or the expression of that they're taking are good, but I don't think there's any way that we can, you can't put the genie in the bottle and hold it in there forever. I am not as connected to the teams as I once was. As as time goes by, you kind of just lose touch a little bit, and kind of like what I said when I started. I mean, about the issue that most people wouldn't know about or haven't talked about is I'm kind of slowly just pulling the tentacles back. I'm trying to be less attached to the community, and I'm less interested in trying to stay in touch. But from what I've seen from the younger generation, I saw a lot of the same stuff that I think defined the community when you and I were in, and that when we came in, there was no SEAL ethos. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure we still live by one. Yeah. The fact that they put it on paper and they make the guys memorize and recite it, which I cannot. I know that it exists. But the SEAL teams existed before that ethos. So I think that's a good step, as long as they actually live it, because repeating bullshit that you don't actually aspire to be means nothing. Yeah, I mean, it's like a pedophiliac priest that fucking can memorize the fucking Bible like I don't give a fuck, But are there those? There's got to be. Okay. Again, people, I am slightly sarcastic, so I'm aware of. I heard there was, but it's So, from what I have heard about what is going on in the teams, I don't know if I would describe it as a crisis. I don't know what level you would put it as, but there are issues. I think recently it started coming out that there are some issues with drugs in the teams. And I have no idea what that level actually sits at now.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there were issues when I was in. I'm trying to think if I ever saw anybody personally using. I don't think that I did, but I have been at commands where people pissed hot and they were removed. So I know that that's not new. Maybe the level that it's at is new. The desire or the drive for people to seek the public notoriety in the spotlight, I don't think that was happening as much in the beginning of our careers.
Yeah.
But was there much for them to seek the notoriety for when we started our career? I don't think there was. So again, it's part of the evolution. I don't necessarily agree with the expression of it, but you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that just like with most things, there's examples set and exceptions made at certain levels in terms of chain of command that set the precedence. And if, if guys, whether it's back in 04, 05, when, after, when Lone Survivor kind of kicked it all off, really, in terms of that public, new generation. Because, I mean, we all grew up reading the Dick Marcinko Rogue Warrior fucking Vietnam era books, and that's why a lot of us join. I know
Men with Green Faces, which I try to explain to my kids. There's this brick and mortar building that I actually had to go find the book at. It was known as a library.
Yeah.
Amazon Prime didn't exist, and they couldn't just double tap, and there
Kindles.
it was. But Men with Green Faces, and then there was, the Rogue Warrior series, which I'm not going to lie, I thought that was a nonfiction at the time that I read it when I was young. Wildly let down when I got into the actual SEAL teams.
When Point Man with James Patches Watson was another good one.
I don't know if I read that one.
I read that one as well. But I guess my point is that there was a huge fucking gap between sustained combat operations that had enough content for things of that nature to be written about.
About 30 years, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Panama, Grenada, Mogadishu, a handful of guys.
Yeah.
I mean, and by that I mean literally a handful. Like Mogadishu, there was 4 team guys there.
Yeah. And so you got this huge disparity between major, conflict or combat operations. And so, like you said, I think, a lot of it is what was there to fucking write and talk about. Obviously writing books and being kind of in that spotlight is nothing new because there are guys, from the 80s and 90s, i.e. Dick Marcinko and company that did. So, but yeah, I mean, to me, just like with most things, I mean, I don't care if you're talking about slaughtering animals, raising your fucking kids, training a dog, whatever, like there's a right way and a wrong way to do every fucking thing. And I think that's where there's been some issues is that there's good ways that reflect positively on the community, don't compromise capabilities, and and overall gleam a positive spotlight on the Brotherhood, and to me, that's a good fucking start.
Well, I think the intent matters.
Yeah.
Well, what's your intent behind publishing something, anything, a podcast, a blog, a book? I don't think I'll ever go down the road of writing a book. I think mostly because I think my capabilities would end at a coloring book, which I have considered, by the way. An adult coloring book, the history of the Navy SEALs, lots of red. Yeah. It's going to be amazing. But what I always try to say is that I do believe that the individual experiences that you get throughout a career, they're yours. Mm-hmm. And you can do with them what you want to do with them. Some people choose to publish them. And I think the intent behind that matters. I think if your intent is to seek fame and notoriety and money for yourself, I'll put a moral judgment on that in a minute because I certainly inherently have a moral judgment of that. And then there's the example I'm going to use is Jocko. Jocko's books on leadership. There's now, I know one of them is out, Extreme Ownership, and I don't know if his second book, The Dichotomy of Leadership, is out, but he and Leif Babin wrote those books. And when I read that book, I don't hear somebody beating their chest. I don't hear somebody who is telling war stories about themselves. What I see is an intent to pass on lessons learned. What I see is an intent to educate. Is there money that can be gained from the publishing of those books? Absolutely. And his experiences are his to do what he wants. His and Leif's. The book is both of theirs, not just Jocko's. But I see just a chasm of difference between an intent to educate and pass on the legacy, because really, what is passing on the lessons learned? That's passing on the legacy. Mm-hmm. That's passing on the things that the guys who served in that 30-year gap of sustained combat, I mean, if you think about who put us through buds,
Yeah.
they didn't see any combat. Why do we have the same moral compass inside of the community and the drive and the desire to uphold what a lot of people call the brotherhood? I would say not as many people live that brotherhood as like to call it a brotherhood, but we got that compass orientation from people who never saw combat.
Yeah.
And they passed on the legacy.
Yeah.
I have no problem with people who have the intent of honoring and educating. That doesn't bother me. I am bothered by people who are pursuing purely monetary gain for themselves, purely notoriety and fame, especially when they start deviating from the truth. If their intent is to raise their own star, I start having an issue, because the reality is their fucking career and that Trident, it's not theirs.
Yeah.
The experiences from their career, I take that back. Their career is theirs, but the community is not.
Yeah.
We rent our time in the SEAL teams. And in my opinion, your goal should be to make it a percentage point better than the day that you got in, but you don't own it.
Yeah.
And they are taking ownership over something that I don't believe that they own.
And I mean, to me, I guess where I think some people, especially outside of the community, and for that matter, fuck, even inside of it, you know, is to me like who dictates that? Like, you know, where do you draw the line from using your experiences and training to make a living? You know, which ultimately, like, to me, it's there's an element of scalability that exists with that. Is that, like, on the one extreme end of the spectrum, you could say, hey, you're not even allowed to put it on a fucking resume, because if you get hired, well, then you know, to me, granted, it's scaled way the fuck down, but there's an element of you're still making a living off of the fact that you were a SEAL. You know, now,
Well, it's a title that you're never going to get rid of.
right. You know, so to me, like, I think that the tough part to figure out is, and again, I think it boils down to, like, there's a right and a wrong way to do everything. Is that, you know, at some point, you know, yeah, you're crossing over into where, you know, if you're willing to lie about your experiences, misrepresent fucking truths or half truths or things about the community that don't exist, or
appropriate other people's experiences as your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%, and there's a number of examples of that.
Yep.
And to me, like, that, from my perspective, as somebody who's written 2 books, 3 if you count, you know, the second one being a young adult adaptation of the first. You know, and I'm happy to get into my reasons as to why, but, you know, to me, you know, that's where, at least from my perspective, that's where, like, I would draw the line in the sand, is that, you know, we all come from a background of those experiences help a lot of guys get hired or open a lot of doors that wouldn't normally exist had you not been a SEAL. But taking advantage of them to the point where now you're misrepresenting things and lying about things, or representing stories that aren't yours as your own, then yeah, for 100% sure. And I mean, I know we could spend fucking 3 hours talking about just that alone, but
I would say that's I mean, I don't know where, I mean, I guess right and wrong would be subjective. For me personally, and I guess for anybody who is listening to this, anything that I say is my opinion alone, right? I speak for Andy, you speak for Mike. We do not speak for the SEAL teams, but I'll certainly give you my opinion on them.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I would say the right and wrong is it starts and stops with the truth. You know, when you start deviating from the truth, in my opinion, if you can, I mean, I'm sure when you wrote your books, you probably felt the burden of integrity and honesty.
Oh, absolutely. And having multiple people, you know, read them to make sure, like, hey, you know, because some of the things that I talk about are, I mean, fuck, some of them are my childhood, some's going through buds. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the last fucking thing I would want to do is misrepresent something or write something that was wrong. And so, yeah, I mean, I had a fuck ton of people read it to make sure that didn't happen. Whereas I know for a fact there are people that didn't have anybody read their shit, you know, and there's a lot of misrepresentations. But,
well, if they had them read their stuff, there might have been an issue.
Yeah.
I think we're beholden to the community that we come from. And you and I count, I mean, I don't really consider myself to be a public figure at all. But people know me as a SEAL. Yeah. And I feel responsible to the community. And if people say negative things about me, or am I representing myself or misrepresenting myself, I mean, I'll adjust my behavior. I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah.
You know, I try to be honest and open. And probably the first things I'll ever tell you about are the things that I fucked up, because
Yeah.
I did more of those than things that are correct.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be that way.
Yeah.
And you have to, if a massive portion of the community is pointing at somebody and saying, that's not right, that's not true,
Yeah. No,
it has meaning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, to me, like the classic 80-20 rule is that, there's going to be 10% of guys that don't give a fuck what you do. There's going to be 10% of guys that if your name is attached to the word SEAL on the internet ever, they're going to motherfuck you for it. It's that 80% middle of the road community, the meat and potatoes of the community is that if the overwhelming majority of those guys are like, yeah, you know what, this fucking guy's doing it right, then chances are you're fucking doing it right, and unfortunately I agree. There's some that don't fall into that fucking category, but like I said, I mean, shit, we could go on and on about it, but
what I will say is I think one of the things the SEAL teams is the least, I wouldn't say, it's not that they're the least capable of doing, it's one of the things that they're the worst at is policing their own. Mm-hmm. It's, as well as I do, you could easily associate the terms catty and bitchy to the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
We are God help you if there's blood in the water, because your peers and your friends and your loved ones will consume you alive.
Yeah, no shit.
Because they love you.
Yeah.
And we're really good at talking shit behind closed doors, and I think we do a poor job as a community.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. SOCOM, and even JSOC to a degree, could go hold a press conference. They could go get a national stage and microphone, and they could clear the air.
Yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they feel, my suspicion is that they feel that it would negatively represent the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
Whereas in my current opinion, I think it would be the beginning of the rebuilding of the integrity on the public face.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fantastic point, and one that I certainly didn't think of. But on that, to your point of doing a poor job, I would take it a step further and say, I think we do as a community a piss poor job of being consistent in how we police our own, because there are times where guys are made a fucking vigorous goddamn example of, and then there's other times where it's, well, I mean, he's a fucking good, like it just gets brushed under the fucking rug, and to me that's bullshit. Like, if there's one thing I can tell you that I've gleaned from training dogs is that consistency is fucking everything.
Well, a standard that is blurry is very hard. It's not a standard.
Yeah.
Especially when the metrodome swings back and forth, and it's the same thing as discipline with kids.
Yeah. It's either right or it's wrong.
Correct.
There's no fucking gray
It can't be
area.
right on Monday and wrong on Wednesday, because you're just going to sit there with a dude looking at you with Apple scroll wheels in his eyes.
It can't be okay when I don't feel like getting in your ass about it, and so I mean that's part of it, but no, it's good shit. So and we'll come back to some team community stuff here.
I know you got a lot of stuff written down.
I got multiple pages. So
I have no notes.
We'll get you a notebook here and a fucking crayon and a napkin.
I told you, coloring book. All you're going to get stick figures doing inappropriate things.
Nothing wrong with that.